Michael Jackson didn't just release Dangerous, he detonated it like a bomb in the middle of the music industry. After redefining pop with Thriller and Bad, most artists would play it safe, but not Michael. He walked away from Quincy Jones. He ditched his old sound. He gambled everything on a brand new vision, one that would fuse R&B, hip-hop, rock, and gospel into something the world had never heard before. Dangerous wasn't just music, it was a warning shot, a statement, and a reinvention. From the most expensive music video premieres in history to record-breaking tours and groundbreaking deals with Sony, Dangerous didn't follow trends, it created them. It changed how albums were made, how they were marketed, and how artists took control of their sound. And the craziest part? This was the album people expected to fail. Stick around because we're breaking down how Dangerous rewrote the rules of pop and why its influence is still echoing today. In 1990, Michael Jackson made a move that shocked the industry. He cut ties with Quincy Jones. For nearly a decade, the Jackson-Jones partnership had produced two of the most iconic albums of all time, Thriller and Bad. Quincy was more than a producer. He was a sonic architect, the man who helped Michael fine-tune his voice into something unstoppable. Most fans and executives assumed they'd ride that wave forever, but Michael had other plans. Behind the scenes, tensions had quietly been building. Jackson wanted more control. He was no longer the young artist taking direction. He was a global powerhouse with a vision of his own. Quincy, for all his brilliance, was old school. Michael? He was already leaning into the future. So he made a bold decision. No more Quincy. No more familiar safety net. He went looking for a fresh sound and found it in Teddy Riley, the mastermind behind New Jack Swing. It was a complete left turn. Teddy Riley wasn't just a producer, he was a rising force, fusing R&B with hip-hop in a way that made everything feel electric. By teaming up with Riley, Michael sent a message. I'm not stuck in the past. I'm here to lead the next wave. Fans didn't know it at the time, but this decision would change not only the album, but the entire sound of pop in the 1990s. And this was just the beginning. When Dangerous dropped in November 1991, the sound was different. Gone were the glossy disco-inspired grooves of Off the Wall or the cinematic funk of Thriller. Instead, listeners were hit with punchy beats, gritty synths, and a rhythmic edge that felt raw, urgent, and alive. From the opening track, Jam, it was clear Michael Jackson had completely reinvented himself. This wasn't just evolution, it was disruption. Working with Teddy Riley, Jackson tapped into the heartbeat of the streets. Riley's New Jack Swing blended hip-hop drums, R&B melodies, and funk bass lines, creating a sound that felt both aggressive and slick. Songs like In the Closet and Remember the Time pulsed with a sexy, modern energy. Even the ballads, like Keep the Faith, had a gospel-soaked power that elevated the emotional weight. Pop had never sounded like this. And more importantly, pop had never felt like this. Michael wasn't just trying to stay relevant, he was shaping the future. He embraced hip-hop influences at a time when most mainstream pop stars still kept their distance. He folded street sounds into stadium anthems, making the underground feel massive and universal. The result? Dangerous created a new blueprint, one that artists like Usher, Destiny's Child, and Justin Timberlake would follow a decade later. And as the music changed, so did the business behind it. Before Dangerous even hit the shelves, Michael Jackson had already shattered one industry record, and it wasn't musical, it was financial. In 1991, just months before the album's release, Jackson inked a jaw-dropping deal with Sony Music. The reported figure? $65 million. At the time, it was the most expensive recording contract in history. But this wasn't just about money, it was about power. The deal gave Michael an unprecedented level of control over his music, his marketing, and even his future catalog. He wasn't just an artist anymore. He was a brand, a business, a global force. Sony knew what they had in Jackson, and they were willing to give him near total freedom to keep him on their label. And Michael, he took full advantage. He used that deal to fund massive music videos, experimental sounds, and a marketing campaign that blurred the line between pop star and myth. It set a new standard. No longer was a label the boss. If you were big enough, you could call the shots. And this contract sent a message to the industry. Artists could and should own their own empires. And with that power, Michael did something no one expected. He turned music videos into global events. If Thriller proved music videos could be cinematic, Dangerous proved they could be global events. Michael didn't just shoot videos, he produced spectacles. And it started with a bang. Black or White premiered on November 14, 1991, broadcast in 27 countries simultaneously to an estimated 500 million viewers. It was the most watched music video premiere in history. But the numbers weren't even the wildest part. The video itself was a statement. From morphing faces to a fiery dance breakdown that sparked controversy, Black and White wasn't just entertainment, it was provocation. MJ was pushing boundaries visually, technologically, and culturally. Then came Remember the Time. Set in ancient Egypt, dripping with gold and mystery, the video featured Eddie Murphy, Iman, and Magic Johnson. Directed by John Singleton and choreographed by Fatima Robinson, it was more short film than promo. With a $2 million budget, it became one of the most expensive music videos ever made. Michael had figured out something the industry hadn't. Music videos weren't just promotion, they were the product. Fans didn't just listen to songs anymore, they watched them, experienced them. And in the process, Jackson changed how labels treated visual content. After Dangerous, every major artist, from Madonna to Beyonce, started thinking bigger, bolder, more cinematic. But as the visuals captivated fans, the media's obsession with MJ about to become as big as the headlines. As the music reached new creative heights, the media's obsession with Michael Jackson exploded into overdrive. By the early 1990s, Jackson wasn't just a superstar, he was a full-blown tabloid phenomenon. Rumors swirled about his changing appearance, his reclusive lifestyle, and every strange detail the press could latch onto. Stories, many false, flooded headlines daily. And instead of hiding, Michael leaned into it. He turned mystery into marketing. The Dangerous era became a masterclass in media manipulation. The album cover alone was a puzzle, layered with surreal symbols, hidden meanings, and visual riddles. It was designed to provoke questions, spark theories, and keep fans and critics guessing. It worked. Even his public appearances became part of the spectacle. He'd vanish from the spotlight, only to re-emerge with massive performances like the 1993 Super Bowl halftime show, where he stood silent for nearly 2 full minutes before even singing a note. The crowd was electrified, and the cameras, they couldn't look away. Jackson understood something most celebrities didn't. In a world obsessed with exposure, controlled mystery was more powerful than constant access. By the time Dangerous took over charts and airwaves, Michael had fully transformed. He was no longer just the king of pop. He was a living legend, surrounded by myth. And with that myth came the biggest tour of his life. With Dangerous, Michael didn't just make a statement in the studio, he took it to the world stage. And he did it like no one ever had. The Dangerous World Tour, launched in June 1992, was a spectacle on a scale the industry had never witnessed. Over the course of 69 shows across 27 countries, Jackson performed for more than 3.5 million fans. But this wasn't just a concert. It was a cinematic experience, tightly choreographed, visually overwhelming, and emotionally explosive. And for the first time, Jackson had full creative control. This was his vision from top to bottom, from the costumes and stage design to the transitions and effects. He wasn't just a performer anymore. He was a director of an immersive global theater experience. Every light, every beat, every movement was part of a larger narrative, one only Michael could tell. The tour was backed by a historic multi-million-dollar sponsorship from Pepsi, marking a major evolution in how live music was financed. Jackson had blurred the line between corporate power and creative freedom. For the first time, a brand didn't just sponsor a tour, they became part of the mythology. But even as the shows sold out and the crowds roared, Michael was battling behind the scenes against the press, the pressure, and the expectations that came with global superstardom. Yet through it all, Dangerous kept climbing. It wasn't just a hit, it was a movement. And its ripple effect on pop music would only grow stronger in the years that followed.
The numbers were huge. Dangerous sold over 30 million copies worldwide. But its influence? That's something you can't quantify. This album changed how pop music sounded, how it looked, and how it was sold. Musically, Dangerous broke barriers. It brought hip-hop beats into mainstream pop before it was considered marketable. Michael and Teddy Riley didn't just experiment, they shifted the foundation. Suddenly, pop stars were chasing street credibility. Producers like Timbaland, Pharrell, and Rodney Jerkins later built entire careers on the sound Dangerous made mainstream. Without Dangerous, there's no Justified by Justin Timberlake, no Confessions by Usher. Even Beyoncé's early solo work echoes that hybrid of smooth R&B and edgy production that Jackson had carved out. Visually, it raised the bar permanently. Music videos became high-budget events. Artists weren't just releasing songs, they were releasing experiences. Today's album rollouts with teasers, cryptic trailers, and cinematic videos, that blueprint came from Dangerous. Even in business, the album shifted power dynamics. Artists started negotiating bigger contracts, demanding more creative control, and viewing themselves as brands. Michael made it clear, a superstar didn't just sing, he owned, directed, and shaped everything. And perhaps most importantly, Dangerous proved that Michael Jackson wasn't living in the shadow of Thriller. He wasn't just trying to repeat past success, he was inventing a new era, one that reshaped the industry from the inside out. In the end, Dangerous was more than just an album. It was a turning point. It marked the moment Michael Jackson stopped playing by the industry's rules and started rewriting them. He broke away from the formula, fused genres nobody expected, and turned music promotion into an art form. He didn't just adapt to the changing landscape, he changed it. And while Thriller may be the album that gets the spotlight, Dangerous is the one that set the future in motion. It laid the groundwork for the sound, style, and strategy of modern pop. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more iconic album breakdowns, hidden music history, and the legends who reshaped the world with sound. Because this is just the beginning.